Hi, this is Dr. Sean Richardson, The High Performance Life. Now, today I want to talk about a topic that's on my mind all the time because whether I'm working with professional and Olympic athletes, executives and leaders in startup, scale-up businesses or large corporate organizations, this topic comes up all the time. And it is all about failure. And you can see my title today is The Failure Fix. We want to look at how your response to failure turns out to be one of your most important success strategies anywhere you go in life. And this actually leads into a conversation I had previously as well about confidence and how confidence sometimes is problematic because we feel like we need to rely on confidence to reach our biggest goals in our lives. Yet when we're failing or dealing with failure or setbacks of any kind, it's really normal to be lacking confidence in those moments. So there's this really interesting interaction between failure, confidence, beliefs, and how we can respond when things aren't going well. So let's look more into that now. One of the places to start is to remind ourselves what confidence is, because confidence is something that I hear people chasing all the time. And if we look at it, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but summarizing what we said before, confidence is actually a mental and emotional outcome state that occurs after we've taken action, got a positive result or a win, repeated that over time, and then reflected on it. So let's look at that. So if we take action and you get the win or the result, R stands for the win or the positive result, so we'll say R little w. You repeat that over time, that is what leads to confidence. So a couple of important elements of this equation. Confidence is an outcome. Action is the first thing in the equation. Action plus a good result tied to that action, repeated over time. So repetition is really important, is what leads to confidence. So now we're going to look at this and go, well, hang on. What if you're getting a negative result? Well, if there's a negative result, we're not going to develop confidence. If you haven't had a lot of repetitions over time, you're not going to develop confidence. But the key ingredient to getting the result is action. And it really leaves us asking, what do we do, as I mentioned at the outset, when there's a lot of failure here? So there's going to be a lack of confidence, and no one feels great when they're doubting themselves and lacking confidence. But when we get caught up in that lack of confidence, it leads to a distraction, less effort, a loss of motivation, which undermines our action and almost becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy around future negative results, ensuring an ongoing lack of confidence. So we want to remove our conversation about confidence right now because really there's something else that comes before that that's more important, and it has all to do with mindset. And in particular, it's about a growth mindset. So you may have heard this terminology, growth mindset. And a lot of people confuse growth mindset with being open and flexible and adaptable. And all those things are really important. But if we go to the source of growth mindset, which is Professor Carol Dweck from Stanford, and her original research, which she'd been doing for 35 years, growth mindset really started from understanding and exploring students' responses to failure. And then, of course, expanding that and looking at anyone in any endeavor in life and their responses to failure. Which is why today we're going to talk about the failure fix. And you can see up here it has something to do with mindset. So let's look a little more closely at that now. I might ask you then, with that question, how is your response to failure? What happens when you fail or you're in the midst of a process or a performance or a project where you're feeling like you're failing, or perhaps you're anticipating failure? How does that have an impact on you? What is your mindset around that? Does your mindset stop you, or does it help you or support you in succeeding? According to Carol Dweck's research, your belief about your skills and capabilities and how they're developed and where they come from has everything to do with how you respond to failure. And this is fundamentally what's in her explanations of both growth and fixed mindset. And it comes down to this. A growth mindset is a belief that your skills and capability can be expanded or improved with effort. And we might say effort given to the right actions or to quality practice. Whereas the fixed mindset is that your skills and capabilities are innate. They're built in. They're already in you. So that means that when it comes to achievement, this is going to be determined by how much effort repeated over time you can give to the right actions, to quality practice. So your achievements are determined by effort given to the right actions. Whereas here, achieving your goals is going to be limited by your built-in skills or your built-in capability. Now, you're probably already figuring this one out because it seems self-explanatory what happens in the face of failure or when you're feeling like you might fail or anticipating a failure down the track. What's going to happen if you're anticipating a failure or if you have failed and you're reflecting on that? What are you saying to yourself about your skills and capabilities in these two positions? I'll let you think about that for a moment. But while I'm letting you think about it, I'm going to share with you some of Carol Dweck's research. So I mentioned she started her research looking at children in learning environments in schools. And she noticed that kids in some lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, say 80-90% of them are failing math, a typically difficult subject for a lot of people, but one which is also often associated with a sense of you know it or you don't. You have that fixed capability. It's built into you. You're good at math or you're not. And that's particularly prevalent in schools that are in poorer areas, poorer neighborhoods of our countries. And so she was looking at children in these areas and she found that, lo and behold, not surprisingly, all these kids who are failing math predominantly had a fixed mindset. When they failed, they are attributing to that, well, I'm just not good at math. It's not built into me. I don't have it. So that meant that when they failed, they saw that math class already above their capability of achievement. They were limited by that capability. So when they failed or even anticipated failure, they stopped giving effort. Failure becomes a reason to give up. Whereas there might have been a few in those classes and certainly other students where those who had a growth mindset, who believe their achievements are determined by effort given to quality practice, when they face failure, that failure was a reason to try harder. She did some really interesting experiments in a laboratory environment to test this out with children. And they brought these kids into the laboratory environment. They'd pre-interviewed the mothers and the children. They weren't that old, but you can ask 5- and 6-year-old children for their mindsets without using this kind of language. You know, what do you believe in? Why do you achieve things? And you can distinguish which kids have a growth mindset, believe that their skills and capabilities can be expanded with effort to the right action, or whether they have a fixed mindset that their skills and capabilities are already built in and innate. You can determine that through some interviewing process. So they get these kids into a laboratory environment and split them into these two groups. They know which ones are which. And they give them a set of puzzles, or 4 puzzles. 3 of them are unsolvable. Now the children don't know that those puzzles are unsolvable. So the children play with them. They fail at the unsolvable ones. They're age appropriate. They succeed at the solvable one. And then they give them a break and a snack and bring them back to the puzzles and give them a choice to choose which one of those puzzles they like to play with again. So what do you think happened? Well, if you figured out this before, the kids with a growth mindset saw failure as a reason to try harder. They selected the unsolvable puzzle. They don't know it's unsolvable. Whereas the kids with a fixed mindset, they saw failure as a reason to give up. They gave up on the unsolvable. They chose the one they'd already solved. It was like kind of a despondent, that's as good as I get, a limited view of their capability. So it's a really interesting mix. Your mindset's going to determine how you respond to failure. Now, in my experience, as I mentioned previously, it's not just how I'm going to respond after I've just failed. If I've had a series of failures in the past, it might not even be failures related to what I'm working on right now, but I have a general sense of I'm not good enough. And if I have a fixed mindset, I'm not good enough because of what's built in. So now my confidence is smashed because I'm getting mostly failure here and I've got a fixed mindset. The effort I'm giving to the right actions is going to be lowered or decreased. Or maybe I'm just going to give up and not practice it enough. So I'm not going to repeat over time the right actions with lots of effort. And so what happens then, now all of a sudden, that lack of confidence seems to be having an impact. But really it has to do with my mindset, which just says, why bother giving effort? You've hit the limit of your abilities. So what can we do about all of this? And the nice thing is there's some really clear take-homes around how to leverage growth mindset, how to implement it in your own life, and if you run a team or a business or organization or a sports team, how you can help influence others to implement it in their lives. And the first thing that you can do to help others implement it is to understand the journey. Understand that what leads to a result is effort given to the right actions. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, pulled together some very fascinating research which shows that at a level of mastery, so to be absolutely exquisite at performing in something, you pick your best performers on the planet, whether it's in music, whether it's in sport, whether it's in computer analytics and technology, whether it's in some element of business, those who are masterful, really at the top of their game, are those who have done at least 10,000 hours of quality practice. So when we talk about effort given to the right action repeated over time, that's what leads to mastery. We're going to get positive results most of the time. So we need to help others understand that there's research behind this. This is the pathway towards extraordinary achievement, to getting great results, quality practice, effort given to the right action. So once we understand that, then we can start to build that growth mindset by reinforcing a number of key things in people's process when they're going about achieving goals, and reinforcing and rewarding ourselves on those things in our own process. So if we understand that pathway towards ultimate success, effort given to the right actions, what we want to start doing is actually rewarding, reinforcing, acknowledging that effort. Now, not just meaningless treadmill type of effort where someone's trying hard at something and not getting anywhere, not really putting their focus on the right things, but rather meaningful effort given to the right actions. And we say the right actions to achieve the result. If you don't know what the right actions are to achieve a result, whether you're on a sales team, whether you're in a back office administration team to achieve your KPIs, whether you're on a professional football team, whether you're an Olympic swimmer, well, usually at professional and Olympic levels, you kind of know what actions you need to take, but not always, right? The thing is, if you don't know what actions to take, you got to get a coach, you got to get a mentor, you got to find out what those are. But if we know those actions, the right process that lead to the result, then effort given to the right actions is what's going to get us there repeated over time. We need to reward this. We need to reinforce this. We need to find a way to say action times effort is what's going to get you there, even before there's a result. So if you're on a project team, and I've worked with some project teams that might be working on a campaign for 12 months before they see the ultimate outcome, or longer. There's a lot of effort going there. You want to make sure you really reward that effort, because you're not going to see a result, but it's normal when people are putting a lot of effort into something that in a way there's an emotional result when you reinforce it. Same with yourself. If you're working hard towards a goal, maybe you've got a new fitness goal, even before you see changes in terms of your fitness or changes in terms of your weight loss or whatever your goal is, you want to make sure that you at least acknowledge the effort given to the right actions during your process. When you do that, you start to feel good. Your brain starts to feel good about the doing part, the process, not just the result. But when you're in that, what you're really doing inadvertently is you're practicing a growth mindset. I'm going to get better if I keep sticking to this. Remember, skills and capability expanded with effort given to the right action. As opposed to if the result's distant, 6 months, 12 months away, you might be questioning this, you might be getting tired, and your brain comes in and goes, well, maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not going to get there anyway. There might be some imposter syndrome. And that fixed mindset can undermine that effort given to that right action. We don't want that undermining to occur. So really, really important to acknowledge, reward, reinforce that. And then very similarly, once you've achieved a result, so maybe you're in a business where there's sales every day or every week or every month, there's a regularity to that outcome. Or in sport where there's a major game every week, there's that outcome, that result's coming at you all the time. So you've just failed. And we said that the topic today is about the failure fix. So how do you respond to failure once it's happened? I just described what happens if you don't even have a result yet. But once you've had a failure, we want to make sure if you have given effort, particularly 100% effort to the right actions, you want to acknowledge that and reinforce, hey, I've made progress today. I've expanded my skill and capability by practicing excellence, by giving the effort to the right actions. Because when you reinforce that and you reward that, you're stepping into this growth mindset. You're telling your brain that we just need to keep going. And that is what's actually going to get us to success in the end. And if you're coaching others, you want to be quite specific. So let's just say that someone's got quite an intricate follow-up process with clientele. They do a whole exploratory data analysis. They provide a report, email follow-up, live in-person follow-up, re-engagement, some reanalysis. Say there's quite a complicated process of actions to take. And one of your sales staff is giving great effort to that process to really get a campaign across the line, and it failed. If we say nothing, then they get discouraged by the result, and that discouragement might even lead to a lack of confidence, and the lack of confidence then undermines future effort given to the right action, which then guarantees a bigger chance of failure in the future. So we really want to avoid that. We want to say that even without success, when you have failure, we want to go back and go very specifically what you did there in that campaign. You followed up, you followed your process, you followed up those 2 levels of analysis, you went back to the client. Those are the things that are going to get you the result in the long run. Sometimes they're just clients you're just not going to get over the line. Maybe it was the problem with the asset. It wasn't the right asset fit for them. But everything you did by practicing that and following your process and giving it great effort, you've practiced a habit that will help you get one that's close or difficult over line in the future. So we want to have people value the process, value effort given to the right action, because they believe and know with the growth mindset that that is what expands their capability. So whenever you're in a process, whenever you are working on trying to deliver a result, it's not just about the result. You're in this situation where you have an opportunity to grow your skills and capability. If that's what you're thinking about, you can succeed in terms of growing your skills and capability every single time you set out, rather than being stuck in a fixed mindset, which said, if I don't get the result, what's the point? These things don't change or grow. So there's no opportunity really in giving great effort to the right actions. And this leads to my third take home of implementation, which is really kind of a phrase I used to describe that, was be prepared to fail going 100%. So the teams I work with, I really emphasize to the leaders and the businesses and the coaches to help reward, encourage, celebrate that willingness to keep going and to give 100% effort, even though you might be in the midst of failure, because it brings you back to that practice of excellence, and because you're taking that opportunity to continue to progress and grow your skills and capability. It's only a failure in terms of the result, but a success in terms of your progress and growth and improvement and enhancing your skills and capability. We start to shift and shape the game of achievement by thinking differently, and that's what's crucial. And when you're willing to fail going 100%, it comes down to real nuanced moments, like that moment when your brain anticipates a failure. For students in that math class, it's like they've tried at the question and they just can't get the answer. And they've given up, they're gonna fail. And that moment of giving up, if you can just say, just a little bit more effort, right at that moment, if we can train the brain to say, feel like giving up equals just a bit more effort, just push yourself a little bit further. That is actually one of the keys that Carol Dweck found in her research, which propels students to future success. In fact, in one of those math classes, they gave the teachers the instruction that when a student got a failure, instead of giving them a mark of failure, they gave them a mark of not yet, which is really interesting, not yet. So you just haven't got the result yet, you haven't achieved yet, but yet is a possibility, you could get there. The other thing that they really encourage them with is when you get to that point of giving up, okay, I've failed. In math, give it another 40 seconds of effort for each of those questions. If you've done that, you've succeeded. In fact, what you've succeeded at is you've succeeded at growing your skills and capability. You've tried a little bit harder for a little bit longer. If we can ingrain that just at that key point, and this is really nuanced, at that key point of giving up, that's your signal to go a little bit more. So, somewhere in that we say giving up should be our trigger to give more, at least for a little bit longer. And if we can make that a habit, we're progressing and expanding our skills and capability. So here you have it. Really, if I was summarizing, the failure fix is to shift your mindset if you ever get stuck in a fixed mindset. And to be truthful, we all have a combination. Some people tend to be a lot more growth mindset oriented and some people are fixed mindset oriented. We want to understand that we want to be here most of the time. But all of us at some point can catch ourselves in a fixed mindset. I just don't have it. I'm not good enough. And if you find yourself there more often, you really want to build up this growth mindset. But it's through understanding how it works. It works First of all, by buying into the research, knowing that if you have this mindset, it will actually lead to far better outcomes. In those math classes in Carol Dweck's work, some of those inner city schools that were really struggling went from bottom of the state to the top of the state, better than all of the private schools within a reasonably short period of time, like 6 to 10 months, from simply implementing that growth mindset, giving that extra effort in the face of failure. Knowing that this can work, that's the first step. You got to buy into this stuff. You got to buy into this and work on your mindset. But those tips and tools around reinforcement, rewarding, encouraging, acknowledging effort given to the right actions. If you emphasize this, understand that mastery comes from a repetition of effort given to the right actions. You train your brain to get that that's a form of result already. The result being growth and progress in terms of your skills and capability. And when you can make that linkage in your brain and you can train it and habitualize and repeat it over time, that growth and progress and my abilities are being enhanced by effort given to the right actions, I don't even need results to prove I'm getting better. Now, these will eventually come and get better, and there's no doubt if I'm getting a lot of repetitive results in the negative and I'm giving great effort to action, so I'm getting a lot of failure, well, that's a reason to tap back into a coach or a mentor if you aren't already working and rejig and make sure, I've said all along, the right actions, that your process, that you really have the right actions for the game that you're playing, for the objectives you're trying to achieve. But regardless, if you can get some of these things in play and practice them, you're going to get better results. But even before you get the results, you're going to start feeling good about yourself. And it's funny because I said that confidence isn't important to success. It's not. It is helpful though, and it's nice to have. And I like to actually say that there's a different kind of confidence out there that's possible. The confidence that comes from that sense of growth. I feel confident that I'm growing my skills and capability by giving effort to the right action. That over time, I'll eventually get the right results. So I don't even need the results to build a kind of action-built confidence, effort and action-built confidence. All right, I hope you've enjoyed a little bit more about how do you achieve big goals. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on energyhealthinc.com. Leave your comments in the comments section. Send me an email anytime. Ask me a question. Look me up on LinkedIn. Love to chat. Thanks again. Dr. Sean Richardson, The High Performance Life.